I found birth control pills hidden in our bathroom. She told me she'd stopped taking them a year ago, but they were current. What I uncovered next went far beyond an affair. Some betrayals cut deeper than you can imagine. My name is Brian Carter. I'm 45 years old, and I work as a senior IT project manager for a tech firm in Seattle. It's demanding work. Conference calls with offshore teams at ungodly hours, project deadlines that don't care about your personal life, late nights troubleshooting when everything goes sideways. The pay is solid, around $120,000 a year, and it's allowed us to live comfortably in a nice neighborhood in Redmond. My wife, Kristen, is 38, works in marketing at a mid-sized agency downtown. She's smart, ambitious, always had that drive to climb higher. We have 2 kids, Brooke, my 16-year-old stepdaughter from Kristen's previous relationship, and Samuel, our 2-year-old son. Mrs. Gloria Williams, our 58-year-old nanny, has been helping us with Samuel since he was born. Gloria has been a steady presence in our lives, and I trusted her completely. It was a Thursday evening in October when everything started to unravel. I'd gotten home early for once, a rare gift in my line of work. A deployment that was supposed to take all evening wrapped up by 4, and I found myself with unexpected free time. Kristen had texted me around 3, saying she had a last-minute presentation to finalize and wouldn't be home until 8. Nothing unusual there. Over the past year, those late nights had become more frequent, but I chalked it up to her climbing the corporate ladder. She'd always been ambitious, always pushing for the next promotion. Brooke was at her friend's house studying for midterms, and Samuel was down for his afternoon nap with Mrs. Gloria watching him. The house was quiet. I decided to surprise Kristen by cleaning up around the house, maybe even cook dinner for when she got home. Our bathroom had become a disaster zone. Her side of the counter cluttered with half-empty bottles, makeup scattered everywhere, hair products multiplying like rabbits. As I started organizing, moving bottles into some kind of order, I knocked over a few items near the back of the shelf. That's when I saw it. A blister pack of birth control pills, tucked behind an old shampoo bottle, and a face cream she never used. I stood there, holding the pack, my mind racing. Kristen had stopped taking birth control over a year ago. We talked about it. She said she wanted to go natural, that the hormones were messing with her mood, and she was tired of the side effects. I hadn't questioned it. Why would I? We already had Samuel, and, at our ages, we'd agreed we were done having kids anyway. But these pills weren't old. I checked the dates stamped on the foil backing. They were current. Recent. She'd been taking them within the last few weeks. Several pills were already punched out. My hands started to shake. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe her doctor recommended she start again for some medical reason. Maybe it was for hormone regulation or something she hadn't mentioned yet. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, but a cold knot was forming in my chest, spreading outward like ice water through my veins. Then other details started flooding back, details I'd ignored or dismissed. The way she'd become distant over the past few months. The nights she claimed she was too tired or too stressed for any intimacy. Her phone, always face down on the table now, passcode recently changed to something I didn't know. Those work events and client dinners that seemed to happen more and more frequently. The new lingerie I'd found in her drawer last month that she'd never worn around me. I put the pills back exactly where I found them and went downstairs. My heart was pounding, but I forced myself to stay calm, to think clearly. Little did I know that finding those pills would lead me to uncover a betrayal so deep, it would blow our marriage apart forever. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the stove without really seeing it. My mind was racing, connecting dots I'd been ignoring for months. The pills upstairs felt like a weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe normally. I forced myself to move, to do something productive while I waited for Kristen to come home. I started pulling ingredients out of the fridge, chicken breasts, vegetables, pasta. Cooking had always been my way of clearing my head, and right now I needed that more than anything. As I worked, my thoughts kept circling back to the same question. Why would she be taking birth control if she wasn't planning to sleep with someone? The answer was obvious, but I didn't want to accept it yet. Not without proof. Not without being absolutely certain. Around 6:30, I heard the front door open. Mrs. Gloria called out, saying she was heading home for the evening. I thanked her, listened to her footsteps fade, and returned to the stove. Samuel was still napping upstairs, and Brooke wouldn't be home until after dinner. It was just me and my thoughts. Kristen came through the door at 8:15, 15 minutes later than she'd said. She walked into the kitchen with her usual smile, dropping her bag on the counter. "Hey, babe," she said, kissing my cheek. "Something smells good. You cooked." I kept my voice steady. "Yeah, figured I'd surprise you. Long day." She sighed dramatically, leaning against the counter. "You have no idea. The presentation went well, but there were so many last-minute changes. I'm exhausted." I watched her carefully. She looked tired, sure, but there was something else. A glow almost, like she was riding some kind of high. Her makeup was still perfect, her hairstyle just so. For someone who'd been stressing over a presentation all day, she looked remarkably put together. "How'd it go with the client?" I asked, plating the food. "Really well. Actually, I think we landed it." She grabbed a glass of wine from the bottle I'd opened. Justin from the design team really pulled through with the visuals. Made us look good. Justin. She'd mentioned him a few times over the past months. New guy on her team, younger, supposedly talented. I filed the name away. "That's great," I said, handing her a plate. "You've been working with him a lot lately." "Yeah, he's been invaluable." She took a bite, not meeting my eyes. "We make a good team." "I bet you do," I thought, but kept my expression neutral. Instead, I said, "Samuel was asking for you earlier. Said something funny." She looked up. "Oh yeah? What did he say?" "He was playing with his toy cars, and kept saying something that sounded like Papa Justin." Kids say the weirdest things, right? I watched her face carefully. For just a fraction of a second, her fork froze halfway to her mouth. Her eyes widened slightly, and I saw her swallow hard. Then she laughed, but sounded forced. "That's hilarious. He probably heard me talking about Justin on a work call or something. You know how kids pick up random things?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "They really do." The rest of dinner was strained. She kept talking about work, about projects and deadlines and office politics, but I barely heard any of it. I was too busy watching her body language, the way she avoided looking at me directly, the way she checked her phone every few minutes. After we finished eating, she went upstairs to shower. I cleaned up the kitchen, my mind made up. I couldn't confront her without proof. She'd just deny everything, twist it around, make me feel like I was crazy for even suspecting her. I'd seen it happen to guys at work. Wives who cheated and then gaslit their husbands into thinking they were paranoid. No, I needed evidence. Real, undeniable evidence. And I was going to get it. When Kristen came back downstairs in her pajamas, I was on the couch with my laptop, pretending to catch up on work emails. She sat next to me, closer than she'd been in weeks. "I'm sorry I've been so busy lately," she said softly. "I know we haven't had much time together." I looked at her, this woman I'd spent nearly 2 decades with, and wondered how long she'd been lying to me. "It's okay," I said. "I understand." She smiled and rested her head on my shoulder. It felt like betrayal, her touch, like poison wrapped in affection. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I'd start digging, and I wouldn't stop until I knew the truth. Friday morning came too fast. I'd barely slept, my mind running through scenarios and possibilities all night. Kristen was already up when my alarm went off at 6, moving around the bathroom, getting ready for work. I listened to the sounds, the shower running, the hairdryer, drawers opening and closing. All normal morning routines, except nothing felt normal anymore. I got up and went through my own routine on autopilot. Shower, shave, coffee. Kristen came downstairs looking polished and professional in a black dress I'd never seen before. It fit her perfectly, probably cost more than she usually spent on work clothes. "New dress?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. She glanced down as if surprised. "Oh, this? No, I've had it for a while. Must not wear it much." She grabbed her coffee mug. "I've got that early meeting, remember? Probably won't be home until late again, right? The big presentation." "Yep." She kissed my cheek, a habit that now felt like performance art. "Have a good day." I watched her leave, waiting until her car pulled out of the driveway. Then I called my boss and told him I was taking a personal day, something I rarely did. He didn't question it. Mrs. Gloria arrived at 8 to watch Samuel. I told her I had some errands to run and would be back by afternoon. She gave me a look that lasted a beat too long, something uncertain in her eyes, but she just nodded. I got in my car and drove to Kristen's office building downtown. I parked across the street in a public garage with a clear view of the entrance. It felt surreal, sitting there like some character in a bad detective movie, but I needed to know. Around 9:30, I saw her. She came out the front entrance, not alone. A man walked beside her, tall, probably early 30s, wearing expensive-looking casual clothes that didn't quite fit the corporate environment. They weren't touching, but there was something in the way they moved together, a familiarity that made my chest tighten. They got into her car. She was driving. I followed at a distance, careful to stay back a few cars. They headed north, away from downtown, toward a neighborhood full of trendy restaurants and coffee shops. She pulled into a parking lot behind a boutique hotel I'd never noticed before. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I watched them get out of the car. Justin, because I knew that's who this had to be, put his hand on the small of her back as they walked toward the entrance. She didn't pull away. She leaned into it. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes, my heart pounding in my ears. Then I grabbed my phone and started taking pictures. The car in the parking lot. The hotel entrance. I even got a shot of them through the lobby windows, standing close together at the check-in desk. This was real. This was actually happening. I could have stormed in there. Part of me wanted to. But that's not how you win. That's how you lose control. Make yourself look like the bad guy. Give her ammunition to use against you later. No, I needed to be smart about this. I drove home, my mind clear for the first time in days. The shock had burned away, leaving something cold and focused in its place. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I was going to build a case so airtight she couldn't wiggle out of it. When I got home, Mrs. Gloria was in the kitchen with Samuel. She looked up when I walked in, and I saw it again. That look of concern, like she knew something but was afraid to say it. "Mrs. Gloria," I said quietly. "Can we talk?" Mrs. Gloria stiffened, her hands pausing over the sandwich she was making for Samuel. For a moment, she didn't turn around, and I could see the tension in her shoulders. "Mr. Carter," she said finally, her voice careful. "What about?" I pulled out a chair at the kitchen table. "Please, sit down." She hesitated, then wiped her hands on a towel and sat across from me. Samuel was in the living room, distracted by his cartoons. We had a few minutes of privacy. "I need you to be honest with me," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "Have you seen anything unusual around here? Anything I should know about?" Her eyes dropped to the table. She was 58 years old, had worked for us since Samuel was born, and I'd always treated her with respect. But right now, I could see her struggling with something. "Mrs. Gloria, please. I already know something's going on. I just need to understand the full picture." She took a shaky breath, and when she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. "Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry. I should have said something months ago, but her voice broke. I was scared. Mrs. Carter said she'd fire me if I told you anything. And I need this job, you understand? My husband's medical bills." "I understand," I said gently. "I'm not angry at you. I just need to know what you've seen." She nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "There's been a man, Justin. He started coming here during the day, back in June. At first, I thought maybe he was a colleague, you know? They'd sit in the office, working on laptops. But then what? Then they stopped pretending it was work." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'd hear them in the bedroom. I'd see them coming downstairs together, her hair messed up, both of them too comfortable with each other. And Samuel," she looked toward the living room where my son was playing. "Samuel started calling him Papa. Mrs. Carter would laugh about it, tell him it was funny, encourage it almost. The words hit me like physical blows, but I kept my expression neutral. How often did he come here?" 2, maybe 3 times a week. Always when you were at work. Always during Samuel's nap time." She wrung her hands. "I should have told you. I know I should have. But she said if I said anything, she'd tell people I was stealing from the house. That she'd make sure I never worked in this city again." I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. "Mrs. Gloria, you're not in trouble. And you're not losing your job. I need you to do something for me, though." She looked up, hopeful and frightened at the same time. "I need you to write down everything you remember. Dates, times, anything specific they said or did. Can you do that?" She nodded slowly. Yes, I can do that." "Good." I stood up, feeling that cold clarity settle even deeper. "And Mrs. Gloria, when this is over, you'll still have a job. I promise you that." She started crying again, but this time it was relief. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. Thank you." I went upstairs to my home office and closed the door. I pulled out a notebook and started documenting everything. The pills, the photos from today, Mrs. Gloria's testimony. I opened a new email account that Kristen didn't know about and started forwarding myself copies of everything. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called a divorce attorney. The woman who answered was professional and direct. I explained the situation in broad strokes: suspected infidelity, evidence gathering, need for discretion. She listened without interrupting. "Mr. Carter," she said when I finished, "I'm going to be straight with you. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, so the adultery itself won't affect the legal outcome much. But what it will affect is custody and potentially spousal support, if we can prove she's been using marital assets to support this affair. She has been," I said, "thinking about that hotel, those lunches, the new clothes." "Good. Keep gathering evidence. Financial records, especially. And whatever your nanny can document will be valuable for custody discussions. Don't confront your wife yet. Not until we have everything lined up." "I won't," I said. When I hung up, I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. 24 hours ago, I'd been a husband trying to make sense of suspicious birth control pills. Now I was planning the end of my marriage with military precision. But I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry, and I was going to make sure that when this was over, Kristen understood exactly what she'd thrown away. The weekend passed in a blur of gathering evidence and careful planning. Mrs. Gloria provided me with detailed written testimony, dates, times, descriptions of what she'd witnessed. My attorney advised me to document everything before confronting Kristen, to wait until I had an airtight case. But Monday evening, something broke inside me. I couldn't keep playing this game, pretending everything was normal while she came home smelling like hotel soap and lies. She walked through the door at 8:30, later than promised as usual. Brooke was upstairs doing homework, and Samuel was already asleep. Mrs. Gloria had left an hour earlier. It was just us. "Hey," Kristen said, setting down her bag. "Sorry I'm late. The client had last-minute changes." I was sitting at the dining table, my laptop open in front of me. Next to it was a folder containing everything: photos, phone records I'd subpoenaed through my attorney, Mrs. Gloria's written statement, credit card receipts showing hotel charges and expensive lunches. "Come here," I said, my voice calm. "We need to talk." She must have heard something in my tone because she froze. "About what?" "About Justin. About where you were Friday morning. About the hotel in Belltown, where you've been spending my money to have an affair." The color drained from her face. For a moment, she just stood there, mouth opening and closing like she was trying to find words that wouldn't come. "Brian, don't." I held up my hand. "Don't insult me by lying. I have photos. I have testimony from Mrs. Gloria. I have phone records showing hundreds of texts and calls between you two over the past 8 months." I pushed the folder across the table. "It's all right here." She moved closer, her hands shaking as she opened the folder. I watched her face as she flipped through the pages, saw the moment she realized there was no way out of this. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Since Thursday, when I found your birth control pills." I leaned back, keeping my voice steady. "The pills you've been taking behind my back. Because you've been sleeping with him." She closed the folder and sank into a chair across from me. "Brian, please. Let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you've been bringing him into our house. How you've let our son call him Papa. How you've been stealing from Samuel's college fund to finance this." I pulled out another sheet, bank statements showing transfers from our joint account. $64,000, Kristen. That's how much you've taken in the past year." Her eyes went wide. "I was going to pay it back." "With what?" "Your salary that barely covers your shopping habit." I felt the anger finally breaking through my controlled exterior. "You've been planning this divorce for months, haven't you? I found the emails to your attorney. You were just waiting for the right time to pull the trigger, try to hide assets before I figured it out." She started crying, but they were tears of panic, not remorse. "It's not what you think. Justin and I, we just connected, and things got complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed, a bitter sound. "You made a choice, Kristen. Every time you texted him. Every time you met him at that hotel. Every time you came home and kissed me while his cologne was still on your skin. Those were choices." "I made a mistake," she said, her voice breaking. "People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are one-time things, accidents. This was 8 months of calculated deception." I stood up, looking down at her. Mrs. Gloria wrote down everything. How you threatened her. How you laughed about me to Justin. How you encouraged Samuel to call another man Papa. She wiped her eyes, and something shifted in her expression. The panic was giving way to something else, defensiveness. Maybe if you'd been around more. Maybe if you'd actually paid attention to me instead of your job. Don't you dare, I said, my voice low and hard. Don't you dare try to make this about me. I've been here every day, working to give you and our kids a good life. What you did was your choice. Own it. She stood up, her tears turning to anger now. Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Justin. Yes, I've been unhappy. You want to know why? Because you're boring, Brian. You're predictable and safe, and you become everything I never wanted in a partner. The words should have hurt, but they just confirmed what I already knew. She'd checked out of this marriage a long time ago. Well, I said quietly, that makes what comes next a lot easier. What comes next? She asked, her voice uncertain. Divorce. I've already spoken with an attorney. You'll be served papers by the end of the week. Kristen's face went from angry to shocked in seconds. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. And here's something else you should know. I pulled out one more document from my briefcase, the one I'd been saving. Remember last month when you screamed at me during that fight? When you said something about Samuel's hair color, how dark it was compared to mine? She went pale. I was angry, I didn't mean. You planted that seed, Kristen. You made me doubt whether Samuel was even mine. I held up the paper. So, I got a paternity test done last week. You had no right. I had every right. You've been lying to me for months. I needed to know. I watched her face carefully. The results came back. Samuel is my biological son. 99.98% probability. She looked confused. Then why are you telling me this? Because you let me suffer for 2 weeks thinking he might not be. You held that over me, used it as a weapon, kept me in suspense while you knew the truth all along. I leaned forward. That's who you are, Kristen. Someone who would torture their husband with doubt about their own child just to feel powerful. She stood there, tears running down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret. Just cold clarity. I want custody of Samuel, I said. And given your behavior, the affair, the financial theft, the threat to Mrs. Gloria, the fact that you've been putting our son in danger by bringing your lover around him, I'm going to get it. You can't take my son from me, she said, her voice rising. I'm not taking him from you. You threw him away the moment you started this affair. Just like you threw away Brooke, and me, and everything we built. I closed my briefcase. You'll get visitation. I'm not a monster. But primary custody? That's mine. This is insane. No judge is going to. I have documentation of everything. Mrs. Gloria is willing to testify. I have financial records showing you've been stealing from our family. I have proof you've been bringing your lover around our minor children. I picked up my phone, and I have this. I pulled up a group chat screenshot that Mrs. Gloria had found on Kristen's iPad before I'd asked her to document things. One she'd accidentally left open while charging it in the kitchen. It showed Kristen and her friends, mocking me, laughing about how I didn't know about Justin, making fun of my attempts to save our marriage. Kristen read it, and her face crumpled. How did you? It doesn't matter how. What matters is that every friend, every family member, every person who thought you were this perfect wife and mother is going to see who you really are. I headed toward the stairs. I'm sleeping in the guest room. I suggest you find somewhere else to be tomorrow. Maybe Justin's place. I'm sure he'd love to have you now that everything's out in the open. Brian, please, she called after me. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. I stopped and turned back. Counseling doesn't fix betrayal. It doesn't erase 8 months of lies. And it sure as hell doesn't make me forget that you put our son at risk for some thrills with a guy young enough to be excited by hotel room affairs. I walked upstairs, leaving her standing in the dining room, surrounded by the evidence of her destruction. From Brooke's room, I could hear music playing. She didn't know yet. That conversation would come soon enough. But for now, I'd done what I needed to do. I'd confronted the truth, laid out the facts, and set the wheels in motion. Kristen had burned our marriage to the ground. I was just making sure she understood there was nothing left to save. Tuesday morning, I woke up in the guest room, feeling clearer than I had in days. Kristen had left early. I heard her car pull out around 6. Running away, probably. I didn't care. The wheels were already in motion. I got Samuel ready for the day and waited for Mrs. Gloria to arrive. Brooke had left for school without saying much, sensing the tension in the house, but not asking questions yet. That conversation was coming, but I needed to time it right. Around 9, I went into the master bedroom to grab some of my clothes. I need to move my stuff to the guest room permanently until Kristen found somewhere else to go. As I was packing, I noticed her jewelry box sitting on the dresser, the antique one my mother had given us years ago. Something made me open it. Inside were the usual things: earrings, bracelets, some costume jewelry. But something was missing. The vintage watch my mother had left me when she died 3 years ago, a 1960s Omega that had belonged to my grandfather, worth about $8,000, but priceless to me. And my grandmother's engagement ring, a platinum and diamond piece from the 1940s worth at least $12,000. They were gone. I felt the anger surge back, hot and sharp. I went through every drawer, every box, every hiding place. Nothing. I checked the safe, still locked, but when I opened it, those specific items weren't there. Only other valuables remained. I called Mrs. Gloria into the bedroom. The watch and ring my mother left me. Have you seen them recently? Her face fell. Oh, Mr. Carter. I was hoping you wouldn't notice for a while longer. What do you mean? She wrung her hands. Last fall, maybe October or November, Mrs. Carter was going through things. She asked me about those pieces, said she was thinking about getting them appraised. A few days later, I saw her packaging them up. She told me she was sending them for cleaning, but she never brought them back. Mrs. Gloria shook her head. I'm so sorry. I should have said something, but I didn't think. I assumed she'd get them back eventually. I pulled out my phone and did a quick search. Found my mother's watch listed on eBay, sold 8 months ago for $7,800. The listing showed photos that were definitely my watch. I recognized a tiny scratch on the case. My hand shook as I searched for the ring. Found it on a vintage jewelry site, sold 7 months ago for $11,500. $19,000. She'd sold my mother's legacy for $19,000. I sat down heavily on the bed, the phone still in my hand. Mrs. Gloria put a gentle hand on my shoulder. She told you they were for cleaning, I said quietly. When did she do this? Right around when Mr. Justin started coming around more frequently, Mrs. Gloria said. I remember because she seemed excited about something, kept checking her phone and smiling. The money had gone to fund the affair. My mother's watch, my grandmother's ring, family heirlooms that should have gone to Samuel someday, sold to pay for hotel rooms and romantic dinners with her lover. I called my attorney immediately. Brian, she answered. What's happened? I told her everything. The missing heirlooms, the eBay listings, the timeline that matched the affair. My attorney was quiet for a moment. Then I heard the sound of typing. This is good for us, she said finally. Conversion of separate property, sold without your consent. This is theft, Brian. We can use this in the divorce proceedings and possibly even file criminal charges. I want her to pay for this, I said, my voice steady but cold. Not just financially. I want everyone to know what she did. We'll make sure of it. Forward me those listings and any documentation you have. And Brian, start documenting everything else she might have taken. Check your accounts, your possessions. If she stole this, she might have taken more. I spent the rest of the morning going through everything. Found more missing items. My father's coin collection, worth maybe $3,000. Some of my grandmother's jewelry that Kristen had accessed. Even some tools from my garage that had belonged to my dad. She'd been systematically stripping our home of anything valuable that connected to my family, selling it piece by piece to fund her secret life. By afternoon, I had a list worth over $30,000 in stolen property. When Kristen came home that evening, I was waiting in the living room. Mrs. Gloria had taken Samuel to the park, giving us privacy. We need to talk about my mother's watch, I said. Her face went pale. What about it? I held up my phone, showing her the eBay listing. You sold it 8 months ago for $7,800, along with my grandmother's ring and a dozen other family heirlooms. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No excuse this time, just guilt written across her face. That money went straight to Justin, didn't it? I stood up, moving closer. My mother's watch paid for your affair. My grandmother's ring bought him presents. My father's collection funded your hotel stays. I was going to buy them back. Liar. The word came out sharp and final. You never intended to get them back. You didn't care what they meant to me, to our family. You just saw dollar signs. Tears started running down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret. My attorney's adding this to the divorce filing, I said, along with criminal charges for theft and conversion of separate property. You're going to pay back every penny, Kristen, with interest. Wednesday morning brought the moment I'd been dreading, telling Brooke. She'd been quiet since Monday, watching me and her mother move around each other like strangers. She was 16, not stupid. She knew something was wrong. I found her in her room before school, sitting on her bed with her backpack beside her. Can we talk? I asked from the doorway. She looked up, and I saw fear in her eyes. Are you and Mom getting divorced? I came in and sat on the edge of her bed. Yes, we are. Because she cheated. It wasn't a question. I looked at her, surprised. How did you know? Brooke's eyes filled with tears. I've known for months, Brian. Since last summer. I saw her with him at the mall. They were holding hands, laughing. I didn't know what to do. The use of my first name, something she only did when she was really emotional, hit me hard. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was scared. The tears spilled over now. Mom said, she told me that if I told you, it would destroy our family. That you'd be so angry you'd leave both of us. She said I'd have to choose between you, and I didn't want to choose. I felt rage build in my chest, but I kept my voice calm for Brooke's sake. Your mother manipulated you. She made you carry this secret to protect herself, not to protect our family. I'm so sorry, Brooke sobbed. I should have told you. I wanted so many times, but I was so scared. I pulled her into a hug. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. Your mother put you in an impossible position. She cried against my shoulder for several minutes. When she finally pulled back, her face was red and blotchy. I found something else, she said quietly. She reached under her pillow and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Mom left this on the kitchen counter last week. I think she meant to throw it away, but I found it in the recycling. I unfolded the paper. It was a letter from a family law attorney, dated 9 months ago, outlining Kristen's options for divorce, estimated asset division, and custody arrangements. There were notes in Kristen's handwriting in the margins. Wait until after bonus. Transfer savings first. Need 6 months to prepare. She'd been planning this since January. 10 months of methodical preparation to leave me, all while pretending everything was fine. There's more, Brooke said. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. She has this group chat with her friends. They talk about Justin, about you, about everything. I found it on her iPad a few months ago when I borrowed it for homework. The screenshots showed exactly what Mrs. Gloria had found. Messages mocking me, laughing about how oblivious I was, discussing strategy for the divorce. But there were more messages I hadn't seen before. Ones where Kristen complained about Brooke too. She thinks I'm in the way, Brooke said, her voice breaking again. She wrote that she wished she didn't have to deal with a teenager during her fresh start. That I was too much like my biological dad, whoever that is. The cruelty of it stunned me. Brooke, listen to me. You are not in the way. You are my daughter. Not biologically, but in every way that matters. She looked up at me, hope and pain mixing in her expression. Really, really. And when this divorce is final, I'm going to ask if you want me to officially adopt you. If you're okay with that. Fresh tears started, but these seem different. You do that. In a heartbeat. You've been my kid since you were 6 years old. That's not changing just because your mother and I are splitting up. She threw her arms around me, hugging me tight. I want to live with you. Not her. I want to stay with you and Samuel. We'll make that happen, I promised. You're old enough that the court will listen to your preference. After Brooke left for school, I forwarded everything she'd given me to my attorney. Each new piece of evidence was another nail in Kristen's coffin. Around noon, my attorney called back. Brian, this is all excellent documentation. With Brooke's testimony, Mrs. Gloria's statement, the financial theft, and the planning documents, we have an incredibly strong case. I'm confident we'll get primary custody of Samuel, and given Brooke's age and preference, she can choose to live with you too. What about the affair? The stolen property? Washington is no fault for the divorce itself, but the theft changes things. We can pursue criminal charges separately if you want. As for custody, the affair shows poor judgment, especially bringing the paramour around minor children. Combined with the financial impropriety, it paints a picture of someone who put her desires above her family's welfare. Do it, I said. All of it. I want her to face consequences. Understood. The papers will be served tomorrow at her office. Are you prepared for her reaction? I thought about my mother's watch, about Brooke's tears, about Samuel calling another man Papa, about 10 months of calculated deception. I'm prepared, I said. The divorce papers were served Thursday afternoon at Kristen's office. According to my attorney, she made quite a scene, crying, claiming harassment, trying to get security to throw out the process server. It didn't work. The papers were delivered, and now the clock was ticking. She called me 17 times that afternoon. I didn't answer. She texted, begged, threatened. I forwarded everything to my attorney and blocked her number. All communication would go through lawyers from now on. Friday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Brian. It was Justin. His voice was young, uncertain. We need to talk. No, we really don't. Look, man, I didn't know she was married when this started. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Yes, you did. You knew exactly what you were doing. You came to my house, confused my son, helped her steal from me. Don't call me looking for absolution. She told me you guys were separated, that the marriage was over. And you believed her? While she was still living in my house, sleeping in my bed, wearing her wedding ring. I kept my voice cold and controlled. You're either a liar or an idiot, Justin. Either way, I don't care which. There was silence on the other end. Then, she's asking me for money now. Says she needs help with legal fees. That's not my problem. Or yours, apparently, since you're calling me instead of helping her. I just thought you should know. We're done. I broke it off. This is too messy, and I'm not getting dragged into a divorce. Congratulations on your moral clarity, I said. Now do me a favor and never contact me again. I hung up before he could respond. The irony wasn't lost on me. Kristen had blown up our marriage for a guy who bailed the moment things got complicated. She'd traded stability and family for excitement, and now she had neither. Monday brought the custody hearing. Temporary arrangements pending the full divorce proceedings. My attorney had prepared a comprehensive brief. Mrs. Gloria's testimony, Brooke's statement, the financial records, the stolen property documentation, everything. Kristen showed up with a lawyer who looked tired before the hearing even started. She'd probably burned through attorneys already, looking for one who'd take her case despite the mountain of evidence against her. The judge reviewed everything with a stern expression. When it came time for testimony, Mrs. Gloria spoke clearly about what she'd witnessed. The affair, the threats, the confusion it caused Samuel. Brooke testified too, her voice shaking but strong, about how her mother had manipulated her into silence. Kristen's attorney tried to argue that I was being vindictive, that the affair was a separate issue from her ability to parent. The judge cut him off. Counselor, your client brought her paramour into the marital home around minor children. She threatened a household employee to maintain silence. She stole and sold family heirlooms worth tens of thousands of dollars. This isn't about the affair. It's about judgment and character. The ruling came down swift and clear. I got primary physical custody of Samuel. Kristen got supervised visitation twice a week, pending full divorce proceedings. Brooke, being 16, was allowed to choose where she lived. She chose me without hesitation. Kristen's face crumpled when the judge announced the decision. Her attorney put a hand on her arm, probably to keep her from saying something that would make things worse. Outside the courthouse, my attorney pulled me aside. Brian, this is as good an outcome as we could have hoped for. The full divorce will take a few months, but this sets the precedent. You're going to be fine. I nodded, feeling the weight of the past 2 weeks settling into my bones. What about the criminal charges? The theft. The DA is reviewing the case. Given the amount and the documentation, they'll likely prosecute. Kristen's looking at felony theft charges, possibly fraud. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. Tired of the fighting, tired of the anger, tired of carrying this weight. But when I got home and saw Samuel playing in the living room with Mrs. Gloria, when Brooke came downstairs and hugged me, relief washed through everything else. This was my family now. Smaller than before, but real, honest, and that was worth fighting for. For months later, the divorce was finalized. Kristen got minimal assets. The court ruled that her theft and financial deception warranted an unequal division. I kept the house, the majority of our savings, and primary custody of Samuel. She got her car, some personal belongings, and supervised visitation. The criminal charges moved forward too. Kristen pled guilty to felony theft to avoid trial. She got 3 years probation, community service, and was ordered to pay full restitution for everything she'd stolen. The watch and ring were long gone, sold to people who had no idea of their history, but the money would go into a trust for Samuel. Justin disappeared from the picture entirely. According to mutual acquaintances, he'd transferred to the company's California office, running from the mess he'd helped create. Brooke thrived. Without her mother's manipulation, she came out of her shell. Her grades improved. She started talking about college, about her future. And true to my word, I started the adoption process. She'd be legally my daughter by her 17th birthday. Samuel was too young to understand everything that had happened, but he stopped asking about Papa Justin. Mrs. Gloria remained patient with him, and slowly, the confusion faded. He was just a normal 2-year-old again, happy and loved. On a Saturday in February, Brooke found me in the garage, working on a project. "Hey," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "Can I talk to you about something?" "Always." "What's up?" "I've been thinking about my last name, about changing it." She looked nervous. "To Carter. Your name." I set down the tool I was holding and gave her my full attention. "You don't have to do that, Brooke. The adoption makes you my daughter legally. The name doesn't matter." "It matters to me," she said. "I want people to know I'm your kid. Not just legally, but really. And my biological dad, whoever he was, he's never been in my life. You have. You're my real father." I pulled her into a hug, feeling my throat tighten. "Then we'll make it happen. Brooke Carter has a nice ring to it." She laughed, sniffling. "Yeah, it does." A few weeks later, Kristen reached out through her attorney. She wanted to apologize, to try to rebuild some kind of relationship with the kids. My attorney advised caution, but I agreed to let her write letters to Brooke and Samuel. Brooke read hers and threw it away. "Too little, too late," she said. I kept Samuel's in a file. Someday, when he was older, he could decide what to do with it. As for me, I wasn't looking for another relationship. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. I had my kids, my work, my life to rebuild. That was enough. One evening, sitting on the back porch while Samuel played in the yard and Brooke did homework inside, Mrs. Gloria brought me a glass of iced tea. "You're doing good, Mr. Carter," she said. "Those kids are lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have them," I said. She patted my shoulder and headed back inside. I sat there watching Samuel chase butterflies, listening to music drift from Brooke's open window, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Kristen had tried to destroy what we'd built. She'd lied, stolen, betrayed every trust. But in the end, all she destroyed was herself. The family I had now, smaller, harder one, was stronger than what we'd had before, because it was built on truth, on people who chose to be here, who fought to stay together. And that made all the difference.